Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 111 of the former Extra Guys podcast, and I'm your host, Justin Kramer. And this week I have back on Staff Sergeant Dustin Reel, former Staff Sergeant. He's out now. If you didn't hear the last episode 110, I would recommend you go back and listen to that because he talks about his career, all the way up until when he was at ANGLICO and his first deployment, how long it took him, and the struggles of trying to get that first deployment in, which I think a lot of people can relate to. This episode, I plan on us discussing in detail his deployment with the Georgian Liaison Team, what the ANGLICO teams were doing out there, how the ANGLICO teams, operated in that area, how the Georgians operated, because I don't think a lot of people outside of the Marine Corps, especially those that were, part of those teams, I don't think a lot of people know or understand what that was and how that operated there. Those Georgians had their own battle spaces and stuff. So it'll be really interesting to get into some details about that, and I'm looking forward to that. And, I plan to ask him some questions about his transition, which everybody's going to get out of the Marine Corps at some point. So it's always good information to hear a perspective from someone else, especially a combat veteran that's gotten out, because, a lot of times I've always said to people, like, you can either have cool stories when you get out of the Marine Corps, or you can have a lot of job skills when you get out of the Marine Corps. Not often is it, both. And I'm talking about job skills outside of the government sector, like not working as a government contractor or something like that. So it's more difficult a lot of times for combat veterans because, to find a relatable skill or job, that you can put those skills to besides the, normal, like, leadership and stuff like that. So anyways, we'll talk about what he's been up to when he got out and everything. So that's what, good time. Should be a really good episode. Also I was surprised. I haven't checked in a couple days. I got on Apple Podcasts and got a couple more 5-star reviews up to 111. One written review from R. Meyer 72 says, Justin does a great job of extracting the stories that need to be told in a way that many people can enjoy them. Happy to see you succeed, bro. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think, I'm glad people are enjoying the stories. Try to change it up. I know there's a lot of FOs and forward observers, JTAC, stuff like that on the show. If you have any recommendations for somebody, in the show notes, there's a link, my Linktree link. Go in there. There's a spot that says, hey, I want to be on the Former Extra Guys podcast. Go there and fill out the survey form, and I'll contact you. I think I got a couple waiting right now. I know there's 2 people that I need to get back to them that have already sent their information. So do that. That's the best way to reach out. I'm trying to consolidate everything there so it's more efficient. So appreciate the show, and I appreciate, honestly, it's not me, it's the people that come on and decide to tell their story. So, let's thank those people, and, if you know them, tell them thanks for coming on. And, so for the reviews, I'm not going to ask you, I'm not going to ask, I always do, I won't ask people to leave a review, it'd be cool if you did, but I'm not going to ask, but I will ask that if you are enjoying the podcast, that you share it with at least one person, help spread the word, tell one person, like, hey man, I heard this cool podcast, Former Extra Guys podcast, it's pretty legit, check it out. That's all I ask. And without and I got to plug the website, jkramergraphics.com. Make sure to support the show. Go on there. You can pick up one of these t-shirts like the one I'm wearing. All kinds of gear. Check it out. If you have something that you want, send me an email. And, I'll just put it on a shirt, a hoodie, whatever. Let me know. Like I do all the custom work. There's a whole custom section in there of all the units and stuff that I've been helping out. So do that, and that's it. Enjoy the podcast.
I was gonna say, one other thing I was thinking about, talking about with the deployment is everybody got there's gunfight stories and stuff like that I know a lot of guests talk about, and we got into a little bit of that. My guys got into that more than I did, but I want to talk about especially if you got dudes who are wanting to join or thinking about joining, is talking about just the basic conditions at the patrol bases. Yeah. Because people have different expectations. You see World War II movies and Vietnam movies, and it's all you see is dudes in firefights. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. So I was going to talk about piss tubes and wag bags and how to shower and shave and all that stuff. Because people don't think about that stuff. And I thought that stuff was really important. So anyway.
For sure. Let's go over all of it, man. So let's start with kind of let's talk about the GLT mission. You want to explain how that came to be, what it is, who the Georgians are, and then what was ANGLICO's role in that, with a breakdown of, ANGLICO.
Sure. Absolutely.
Go ahead.
We'll start, I guess, with the GLT mission, why there's a GLT and why ANGLICO supports it. There's 2 Georgian infantry battalions, at least at that time, and for a couple of years, in Helmand province, and it's I would say a ways northeast of Leatherneck. So just to the west of like the Sangin River Valley. And those two battalions owned battle space separated by a north-south line. And I'm not sure what the other Georgian battalions, I think they were protecting routes and stuff right there next to, near Sangin. But our battalion's mission was protecting, Route Red, the main MSR going through that area. And it's not like a paved road. I mean, it's like literally a dirt road that, it's just one of the primary routes through there. And, but because they're a foreign military and they don't have a lot of their own logistic assets and communication assets and supply, they need those augments from the U.S. military. So there's a Georgian Liaison Team, which is a bunch of Marines comprised of S1 guys and S2 guys and S3, S4. So you got, admin, intel, supply, logistics, and comm. And they sort of train and then augment them on deployment. So they train them in the country of Georgia where they do their own workups, and then they deploy with them and sort of provide a lot of those functions. So they're like a liaison for those SSgt functions for those battalions. So when they need chow, they're trained how to order their own chow, for example, but they've got Marines there that can help them do it at the battalion. So they're showing them how to use the systems and how to get stuff. And then we had a few motor T guys who would run convoys up and down, who were Marines and would deliver mail and supplies and stuff like that. So that was the basic integration between what the GLT is and why they're there with a Georgian battalion. And the Georgians are basically there because they want to be in NATO. So, for years, they want the military support of NATO and they want the help of NATO. So they are, contributing. They want in the fight as well to be part of that. Mm-hmm. And then ANGLICO's mission, of course, ANGLICO, Air Naval Gunfire Liaison Company, is there to provide that mission with air support and medevac and indirect fire support. So whatever sort of fire support that they need or medevac support is what ANGLICO is doing there. So our team was 19 guys. We had 7 was our headquarters that partnered with the battalion. That's at the battalion COC. So that's the OIC and our corpsman and air officer and a couple other Marines. And then we had 4 Marines at each company. So you got 3 companies in that Georgian battalion, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie company. And those 4 teams are the firepower control teams within the SALT. So you had Captain Watt was his Charlie company. That was his FIC team. I had Alpha company, FIC Delta, and then FIC 7. FIC 8. Sorry, Captain Lease was down at Faisal with Bravo company. And so that was the basic organization of how, it was laid out, what our mission was and what we were doing there.
What was your kind of like expectation, going on this Georgian liaison mission? Because ANGLICO is like an augment to the GLT, right? You're not technically, GLT, right?
Yeah. So I think administratively, we fall administratively under the GLT. And then,
but you don't do the entire workup with them, though, right?
No, we didn't. So, like we said, we did. Like I said in the last episode, we did that one short trip to Georgia, where we sort of met. It was just a meet and greet, get to know the people, and then we did one workup in Germany for I don't know, we were there 2-3 weeks, and then that was it.
Did the rest of the Georgian liaison team, the GLT that you attached to, were they mostly from one unit, or were they from all over the Marine Corps?
I think they were from all over. They sort of individually augmented them, or they take a couple guys from a motor T unit and put them together, with that team. So they're like, we need 5 motor T guys or whatever, and they'd grab them from one motor T unit and stick them over there, and maybe a couple admin guys and a couple intel guys. So
you're kind of like standard advisor team style deployment then, just guys from everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't have any infantry enablers, which was tough because a lot of the GLTs had infantry enablers. So, it was a little bit frustrating when we were doing the workups. in Germany with the Georgians is there was Marine infantry evaluators there. So they're walking along on our patrols, evaluating the Georgians on their ability to act as infantry.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course we had our JTAC evaluators there watching us. But they weren't always there. So they had advisors in the workup, but there were no infantry enablers on the ground. So in Afghanistan. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, so we had to sort of fill that role a little bit too. And I'm not an infantry guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I went to MCT, but
I've done the obstacle course. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I mean, no workups. We did a lot of shooting. We've done a lot of medical. We've done a lot of patrolling stuff. I know the basics. I'm not an infantry guy.
That's like an infantry guy saying he knows how to call for fire, so he's a forward observer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you don't know the in-depth details of it.
Yeah, it's like I could do the basics, but if something goes crazy, it's like, okay, well, I know how to react. I've been in, a few situations where you gotta figure out how to react. But I'm not an infantry guy. So
do you think that hindered the mission in Afghanistan, like not having those infantry advisors there?
Yeah, I think having them would have helped push them to do operations.
Okay.
But I'll take one example. I tried advising them on some stuff because they would follow the exact same patterns on their patrols all the time, and we'd always get shot at from the turnaround point. So whenever we turned around and started walking back towards the PB, that's when we would take fire all the time. And every patrol that happened, I'd get the patrol brief the night before, and or at least the plan from the Georgian side, and I'd map it out on a program on our laptop that tracked all the patrols. So I'd enter all of the checkpoints for that patrol. And after I think maybe 6 or 8 weeks, you can pull up all the history. So it's like an overlay, right? It just puts you an overlay on a map. And I pulled it up and I showed all our history of patrols. And basically what it looked like was if our patrol base was like right in the center, it looked like butterfly wings around our patrol base. So it was just like you're just taking the same patrol routes every time. And I was showing them, I was like, this is why we keep getting shot at. We're doing the exact same patrol routes. We're not going into different and new areas. We're not doing any operations. And it was like, I'm trying to push them a little bit. Like, we got to do something different. Mm-hmm. But having those infantry enablers there would have really helped, because that would have been their full-time job. You know, I'm doing a lot of other things. I'm doing fire support. I'm managing, not just my guys, but I'm coordinating with EOD. I had a couple of GLT guys with me. I'm working that. I'm trying to work chow. I was also like the camp commandant because I was the senior and Marine there. So pulling some other hats and trying to help them with advising them on the infantry stuff as well. But having some infantry enablers would have helped push operations in the direction they should have gone.
Were the Georgian infantry battalions like a standard size battalion, like the Americans?
Yeah, what like 600 guys maybe. You had 3 companies of 200 or something like that, and a headquarters, maybe 150 in the companies. I think that sounds about right. Yeah, something like that.
Now, you're saying that you were trying to push them, to do more operations or change up their plans at all. Did you see? Were they manned up enough? Did they have enough people to do extended patrols, or was it kind of like the British situation where they didn't really have enough people, so they were forced to only do presence patrols around their patrol bases?
They had enough.
Yeah.
There's enough assets there for them to have pushed a little bit further. I think part of it too was that when I heard this, Colonel Renforth was the regimental CO at the time, and back at Leatherneck, and somebody told me later that every single morning he got up and walked in the COC, and his first question is, "What's going on with the Georgians?"
Yeah.
And so they had a big hurdle to jump as far as proving that they could do things, but they never really took that challenge of proving that they could do things.
Yeah.
And I think they did one planned operation while we were there out of the battalion, which is, you should be doing a planned operation every week.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was basically like to try to hit like a place where they were, I think, storing weapons and IEDs and stuff. And that happened near the end of the deployment. So, but they had the assets. They had enough guys. They could have done stuff. I mean, we were doing 2 and 3 patrols a day. So, and they're rotating different guys every time for those patrols. So
it's crazy that something so basic like saying, hey, change up your patrol route. Like if you even get any kind of pushback for something like that, I've seen Taliban dudes get smoked because they followed the same. We had a patrol base in Marja when I was with 3-6 that would get pot shots around the same time every day. And we knew it was like somewhere from the south or something like that. And so we're like, hey, look, man, this is happening around the same time every day. They're taking a couple shots and then they're disappearing. So we're like, our PGSS operator, which is, for those that don't know, the PGSS is this big-ass blimp with a camera on it that they fly up, super high and you can see all kinds of shit. We're like, hey, focus on this area, and for this time frame. This is the only area we want you looking at. And lo and behold, man, we see these couple dudes come running with the PKM and, they got their weapons and shit. And they go get set up and fire a couple rounds. And because we had this whole thing kind of planned, I don't know if we had air scheduled or we, dropped a pry, which means, requested air. And I think we had a Reaper or something come in and smoke those dudes with the Hellfire, at least 1 or 2 of them. And it was like, dude, quit. Yeah, nice, right? They quit going the same route. That's the evidence. If you don't need to, that's it right there. You can see what the effects of that. So why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That was frustrating, trying to get, you sort of get nods when you say stuff. You're like, oh, yeah. And then they just keep doing the same thing. All right.
Were you working solely through translators, or how many of them spoke English?
It was mostly through translators. We had one Georgian soldier that was there that was really good at English, and he had been a translator on the previous deployment, but this time he was just done with it. He wouldn't do it. He was just a regular infantry guy. So he just hid in his hooch. But no, we always had a translator in the COC, but yeah, we're working through a translator. So when, people are getting shot at and things are happening, like you're like trying to go through a translator, like, hey, I'm doing this right now. It could be frustrating, and they were really slow on their side of stuff, especially just like reporting fire. Mm-hmm. I'd be in the COC watching a patrol, and sometimes, we try to patrol at least or cover at least 2 patrols a day. But sometimes we didn't cover patrols, especially if it was like mounted. If it was a mounted patrol, we're like, you guys go. Like, you don't need us on a mounted patrol. You figure our guys are putting on 80 pounds and doing 1 patrol every day. They eventually they need a little break. Mm-hmm. But like when those patrols would take fire, I'd immediately get on the radio and let my OIC at the battalion, Captain Bates, know, hey, they're taking a little bit of fire. And just to give him like a heads up, like, hey, bullets are flying, so it's possible that I'm going to need air or medevac. Not that I'm asking for it, but just letting you know what the situation is. Yeah. Like, it's possible. And usually one of the 3 companies had air on station. So if we needed to, and one company had air, they're just doing ISR, and somebody starts taking fire, you can just pass the air over, right? It's like, oh, hand me your Harriers or, Cobra Huey mix, whatever you've got on station. Mm-hmm. And then you could go push them over your patrol. But as soon as I would say that, I'd say, hey, that, taking some fire, that would get passed up to my OIC. My OIC in the battalion COC would tell the battalion commander, the Georgian battalion commander, what's happening. But the Georgians inside my COC, the company, had not told their battalion yet.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So the battalion commander is calling down. Is like, hey, why aren't you telling me that you guys are taking fire? And then so Alpha Company CO would kind of he'd like, hey, why are you telling him that? And I'm like, because you're taking fire. Like, that's why. And it was weird because they had that Soviet mindset where they literally wanted to fill out a contact report, like with all of the information. They wanted the form complete before they sent it up.
Oh, really?
So it's like they wanted to like wait until the engagement was over and they were back, and then they were going to send this report that said like, oh, we took 1,000 rounds and then fired 500, and so they wanted to like fill out this whole report and then send it up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not waiting. I'm not doing that, because if one of you get shot and I need, a medevac, I want my OIC to already be spun up and be aware and be like, okay, there's something going on down there. We'll get something ready. So I don't know. It's just weird.
Was that an ongoing thing, like the entire deployment, or is that something they're after a while they realize the seriousness or the benefit of, the speed of information?
Yeah, I think they maybe got better. I think they were always a little bit frustrated about it, but I just told them I'm not stopping. I'm like, you can get mad. I suggest you just get faster.
I don't understand why you would be mad. I mean, I could see like in training, people being confused, like, why are we doing this? And then you explain it, and they're like, okay, that makes sense. I'm giving people a heads up. They can start prepping people just in case, like HIMARS launchers. We can go ahead and pull them out of the hide site or whatever and get them ready to launch. Even if, they can always pull back. It's not a big deal. Little things like that to speed stuff up. It seems like that's an easy lesson to learn, especially if you're in combat and people are actually getting shot. It'd be like, hey, it would probably behoove us to like expedient,
Yeah.
I dropped my first behoove there, I think.
You did what?
I said, I think I just dropped my first behoove. Anyway.
Oh.
It's frustrating.
I don't know. It was weird. I'm like, well, I'm doing this, my guys are on these patrols too. I'm not going to wait for you to submit your form. Because if something happens, like I want my guys ready to go, to
sure.
Launch air. So
that's the positive of technology, is speeding up that process of communication, that kill chain you're shortening, and that it's just, I don't get that.
Yeah. That's why I got rid of, I stopped with like a Kazovac request. You got you got to have a 9-line Kazovac request, and you go through all the lines, and everybody memorizes it. We made everybody learn it, but I stopped. I did this in training. I think we learned this sort of in Germany. I stopped making the Marines send 9-line requests. So if you're at an X and you have a guy who gets hurt, don't fill out a 9-line and send it to me. Just get on the radio and plain speak. Hey, I've got so and so hurt, gunshot wound to the leg. Just tell me that. That's all I need to know. And then I tell the battalion, and then they type that into Merc chat, and that's what gets the birds flying. Don't wait and send me a whole 9-line.
Yeah.
Like you're wasting minutes. Like you're just wasting time while somebody's bleeding. So just get on plain talk. I'll plain talk to the battalion.
Yeah.
So if it happens, somebody calls in a medevac or, says, hey, somebody's hurt, then I talk to battalion, and then Captain Bates is typing that in, or Squirrel's typing that into Merc chat, and they're launching an aircraft, and they're doing the 9-line. They're typing out the 9-line. So, it's just those little things to speed up. It's like, yeah, you should know what the Kazovac 9-line is. You should know what everything in that is and how to do it properly, memorized. But don't do that on the radio while people are actually hurt. Like, it just slows things down. Yeah. Just give them what you got.
You think we're sometimes too hard on the partner nations that we work with because they aren't as proficient at a lot of things that we do? Because on our advisor team, something that we talked about was like, dude, you have to realize that we have over 200 years of fighting experience. We've like refined this. Fighting Europe, fighting France, fighting Britain, fighting Native Americans, and shit like that. All this crazy stuff. Fighting in Vietnam, So are we too hard sometimes, you think, on these other partner nations? Because it's like, dude, why can't you understand this when?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think standards should be relaxed because people don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
The way you get most military tactics, even like, I mean, you look at some of the most high speed, low drag operators on the planet, all of their tactics are, you can find it at the Google search. It's not a secret. What makes people better is repetition. Mm-hmm. So, you do the same thing 1,000 times instead of 5 times. And that's what makes you good at it.
Yeah.
So the key is, a lot of these tactics are pretty basic. They're not crazy. I just think that we need to have consistency and patience in training. It's like, okay, we're just gonna do this over and over again until you've got it.
Until you know how to put a tourniquet on
And
properly. Until you know how to reload your
yeah,
weapon properly.
yeah. Like basic infantry skills are pretty learnable, and tactics and SOPs are learnable. You just have to do it over and over again, and until it's muscle memory. And so I think the standards are good, and I mean that's why we have a center for lessons learned in Quantico. I mean, we've changed our tactics constantly from deployment to deployment.
Yeah, but I'm a partial fan of that because I know as well as you probably do, a lot of units gloss over their after action reviews because they don't want to put anything negative that their unit did or anything like that. They only put the positive stuff. There's some they really limit like the negatives and stuff because it looks bad on the commander, if they're telling the full truth.
Yeah.
And that's not saying the commander did anything wrong, but there's negative shit that happens that you just can't help sometimes. But I think a lot of our after action reviews are fluffed up quite a bit. So, but you're right. I mean, what'd be interesting is to like go to Georgia, the country of Georgia, and see how their military like boot camp is, and see how their initial like MOS training, their job skill training is before you see them come over and do. I mean, how was their weapon handling? Were they dangerous? Were you scared to have them walk around with weapons?
They were a little dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little dangerous.
They're using all American weapons, right?
Yeah. When we were there, it was all American weapons. There were several negligent discharges. I mean, I just remember several times just being in the chow hall when I was at Shergazi, and they had a chow hall, and just sitting there eating, and then hearing a weapon go off, and sort of just that reaction, like jumping up, like, okay, is there going to be another?
Yeah. You
just wait for the second. You're just waiting for the return fire to see if it's a fight, and then you just hear some Georgians laughing, and you're like, okay, I am gonna go use my weapon now. I'm gonna go shoot somebody. Like, it was so frustrating how that was not. I didn't see that being enforced. I walked out of the COC one time in my company. I just told my guys to get out, and I left one time in our company COC because some guy walked in. He was like one of the staff NCOs for the company, and he comes walking in. He's got his rifle over his shoulder, and he's holding the barrel like this. So he's got the barrel like this, and he's just walking around with the barrel pointing straight, just flagging everybody in the COC.
What the fuck?
He just got it over his shoulder. I just got all my guys. I'm like, everybody get out. Just leave the COC. And they come out and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, that guy doesn't know how to handle a weapon. I'm not going to go in the COC until he leaves. And they're like, oh, sorry. It's like no big deal. Like the company commander's right there. And I'm like, dude, you can't handle weapons like that. You guys have negligent discharges and you're pointing your rifle at me. Like, get out of here. Like,
that's how the Afghans were a lot too, It's just, you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we had a ND my very last day in Afghanistan when I was with 3-6. It was me and Sergeant Lopez, who was an infantry guy. We were waiting in our tent because we were like the last dudes to get to fly out. And we're just sitting there on a cot bullshitting. And you just hear, like you said, you hear some rounds go off. And you're like, oh, shit. And then it was like, oh, it's just an ND. Like, God damn it. But you get all amped up for a second. Like, oh, fuck, man, that was close.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, like, just get the fuck off this base. Like, this is my last day.
Yeah.
I'm literally waiting on the helicopter to come. Like, get us out of here, man. These guys, And when I was in Sangin on my 13 deployment, these guys would use the SPG-9, which is a recoilless rifle. And, man, they just swung that thing all over the place. And just, if the round didn't fire, like if they put a round in and they tried to fire it like once or twice, it didn't go off, they would just toss it down right next to you. And I'm like, bro, like, what are you doing, dude? Like, that shit's me and one of the other dudes, we were getting ready to go out to this new patrol base that they had built. And we were pulling up, before we went out to the patrol base, we pulled up to the main patrol base that was already there. The other one was like a smaller one that was supposed to support this one and be able to watch the river in Sangin. And so we pull up to this first one out of chance just to say what's up. And at the same time, a Humvee pulls up, which is coming from that patrol base. And we're like, hey, what's up, guys? And a dude they pull a guy out of the Humvee. His foot's gone. He had stepped on an ID, or he got hit by an ID or something like that, blown his foot off. And then they're like, hey, there's a huge firefight at the new patrol base. And then we're getting like calls over the radio, like, you know, all this shit's happening. Get ready. And we're like, shit, we're rolling into like a gunfight. Like, this is like for real. Fosberg's on the 50 cal, and I just see him racking, like, let's go, motherfucker. Like, he was super pumped. You know, he's an infantry guy. This is like I think it was his third deployment. He was, and we rolled over there, and it had died down a little bit, and there was just some sniper shots going on. But me and Fosberg jumped up on the wall, and we're trying to see, like, where we're getting shot at from. And this fucking Afghan loads up the SPG-9, and I look over, and I see him getting ready to shoot it. And I'm like, Fosberg, get down. And we both, he, like, turns his head and, like, gets down, and I'm in, like, the guard shack, you know, they would put up on the corner of a patrol base, like the little plywood guard shack with the little windows cut out. I'm inside of that with the back blast pointing right at the door for that. And I just get in and try to get in the corner, and boom, man. And I think it almost knocked me and Fosberg both out, you know, from shit like, but it's like, dude, that shit, you can definitely kill someone with that, you know? And I don't know, man. I guess we just, maybe it's because America has a weapon culture, kind of, you know, like maybe it's something that's because of, you know, people can say what they want to say about the NRA, but years ago, and like the olden days, I guess you want to say, like in the 1900s, as crazy it is to say it like that, weapons safety training classes and stuff like that, and the NRA like helped change a lot of people and sportsmen, like get those weapon safety rules out there and stuff, and the civilian marksmanship program, you know, and I think those kind of lessons learned and been passed down, although there are Marines that I question when I'm on the range. I'm like, all right, keep an eye on that fucking dude. You know? But I think overall we have a better job. We have a history of it. So I don't know.
Oh yeah. I mean, my kids have their 4 weapon safety rules memorized.
Yeah. I mean, I used to do it with my kid with this BB gun before he could shoot his actual gun.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We've got a little Ruger 1022, and before they get to shoot it, like, okay, tell me your weapon safety rules. Mm-hmm. And they say them correctly, they get the gun. So yeah, that stuff's important, and the NRA still plays a pretty big role in. I mean, they're still I think most widely accepted safety course for, you know, concealed carry permits and stuff like that. So
I would say their NRA instructors and stuff are all probably professionals, you know. And there was actually an NRA instructor that stopped a mass shooting in Texas at one of the churches. Yeah. So that was an NRA instructor. I have no problem with that. The issue with the NRA, in my eyes, recently has been their lobbying and their image that they put out. They're just putting out shitty images. There's a video out right now of the president like trying to kill a elephant in fucking Africa or whatever, and he just does a poor job of it, you know. Like, so it's like shit like that. It's like, dude, you look like assholes. You know, you're coming off as assholes. And what I had in middle school, I lived in Tennessee, and in middle school, you could take hunter safety course as one of your classes because you got to pick. There was like one elective in middle school, you know. If you took that class at the end of the semester, at the end of the year, they took all the people that graduated that class out to the football field and shot clay pigeons on the football field. You know, and I'm like, dude, can you imagine a school even trying to suggest something like that in 2021? You know, this is in 1997. Yeah, like 1997, I think, is when that was. So, anyway, so back to what we were talking about. Let's talk about, what did you take out on missions? What was like your standard loadout? Like, hey, I'm going out on a foot patrol with the Georgians. You know, your standard patrol. What did you carry?
Well, of course, primary weapon. I had a 203 on my M4, and mostly for marking. I didn't carry. I think I had 1 or 2 HE rounds with me, but I carried a few smoke rounds just for marking with that 203. Standard loadout for ammo. I actually went a little bit minus on ammo because I carried basically 3 radios. And I was like, well, if I'm having to shoot the weapon, then we're really in trouble. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, my primary weapon is my radio.
When you say you had standard loadout on ammo, what do you mean?
Like 120 rounds, like 6 mags, you know.
Okay.
So, yeah. I took like 120. I mean, you could take 180. It kind of, you know, I think I took 120 rounds. But I left my pistol behind. I wasn't bringing my pistol. I carried that around on, you know, on base, I just carried my pistol. But when I went on patrol, I left my pistol back. I'm like, I'm not taking my pistol. It's stupid.
Yeah, there's just another marker to be like, hey, shoot that guy first.
Yeah. Plus, I hated hip holsters, and I was like, dude, if we get down to the point where I'm shooting my pistol, we did something wrong. Like, we should not be in that situation.
Yeah.
And we weren't getting in that situation. That was not happening. It's not like we were, clearing, urban, buildings or something like that, and it would have been something to have. Yeah, carried usually a Golf, 117 Golf in my pack. I had a UHF 152 for talking to air, and then I forget the name of it. What was that other thing? It was about the size of a 152, but it was like a mini video scout.
Oh yeah, the Soldier ISR. That's what we call it.
Yeah. So I always wore clear glasses, and I wore that thing. So I had that little.
Did you actually wear it clipped on?
Yeah. Well, I'd flip it up.
Huh.
Yeah, so you could flip it, and then and I wore clear glasses, and then if I had air on station, I actually needed to talk them onto something, I just flip it down and put it in front of my eye, and then I could point them, hey, where I need you to go, and then flip it back up once we had PID or like talk on or something.
For those that don't know what we're talking about, this is a 152 size device, which a 152 is basically a big walkie-talkie. Think of like a commercial size walkie-talkie, a little bit bigger. This device connects with the aircraft's pod, the camera that's underneath the aircraft. That way the JTAC on the ground can actually see what the pilot is seeing and give a more accurate talk on, so that to limit collateral damage or issues like that. What he's talking about, what Dustin's talking about, is that it has the way you view it. There's a couple versions. One of them has like an eye scope that you hold up to your eye. The one he's got is the one that clips onto your glasses, and I didn't know you could flip it up, but I didn't really mess with it because it fucked up my glasses. It scratched them up. So I was like, dude, this thing keeps scratching them. I'm not using it. So I actually took mine and tucked it into the wire into my drop pouch, and when I needed it, I would just pull it out. Like it was always on, but when I was ready, I just pull it out, look, and then because I didn't like having it, one more thing in my face kind of deal. But that's a user preference. That's the great thing about like your JTAC setup is. How do you want to go about the mission? How do you think that's the best way to do it?
Yeah. For mic, I had two different mics that I used. I used the little Britney Spears one, and I'd switch back and forth between that and the cop mic. I really liked the cop mic.
The cop mics were good, but it was hard to find one that worked.
Yeah. I found one that worked, and I held on to that thing for a while. That was like gold. But yeah, I liked it because I could put it right here and I could hear it. I could just put my head down and I could hear what was going on, what was being said, and then you could just talk on it. So it's not like holding a handset, which is super annoying.
Did you not have the Britney Spears mic, which people are wondering? It's exactly what he's talking about. The little earpiece goes around the ear and has a little wire microphone. Yeah. Did you not get like a Peltor or anything from ANGLICO? Did they not have headsets for you guys, or was that?
I think some guys had them.
Or did you just not prefer them?
Because those had like the big,
like
full ear muff.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the full ear muff. I tried it a couple of times. I tried like 5 different mics in Germany. So we would do a lot of like dismounted patrolling practice in Germany with different aircraft, and we had French Tornadoes and F-16s and all kinds of stuff flying for us. So every time I went out, I'd try one of those different mics, and I just didn't like that full ear muff. I ended up just taking that Britney Spears and the cop mic. Those were my 2 favorite. I knew guys who had the Peltor. I mean, they liked them, and I was like, okay, cool.
Again, user preference. What's the most comfortable way for you to do it? I had the Peltor dual com, which some people would not like that because it's like you have to be able to manage a different radio in each ear and know what selector you're on without paying attention to talk to whatever. Again, user preference. I wanted a cop mic also, but I could never fucking find one that worked. If I had one, it would work for like a day and then it would stop working. I'm like, damn it, man.
Yeah.
So
the connectors on them are like a little bit loose, so they if you pulled on it a little bit, if you had like a little bit of tension on the wire, it kind of the connection pulled away and it wouldn't talk.
Yeah, to get those, you have to get like the right O-ring and everything else, and there's limited amounts of O-rings you can find, and a patrol base in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Once it was gone, it was like, well, that was nice, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you carry smoke grenades, like outside of your 203 grenades?
I don't think so. I usually patrolled with. I either had one of the radio operators, like Senesac or Sanchez, with me, and or Finch, and I think I usually had them carry one or two. But yeah, I just at some point you got to cut stuff off and be like, okay, this is my loadout, and that's extra.
Yeah, it gets heavy.
So you gotta choose. Ounces equal pounds. So
did you
gotta
carry any
pick
kind
what
of
you
optics?
want. Nope, I didn't carry any. Finch always had either binos or the laser rangefinder, and but there wasn't really a lot of need for it that I saw. Just with the way things were happening where we were, I could get. I had my tablet. I had my radio. I could see what the aircraft was looking at, and I could talk them on. I mean, it was like, I don't need optics. So just for that situation, I didn't feel I needed it.
I had the smaller laser rangefinder, the Plurf.
Oh yeah.
So that was a little easier for me to carry. I didn't have a second person to be my mule like you did.
Yeah.
I had to carry all that shit.
Yeah.
So I would carry that Plurf, but the problem that I had with that was that a couple times, man, it would not give me the correct range when I was in like a firefight, because prior to that deployment, when I was with 3-6, I was in the command center most of the time as the fires chief, and I was the guy on the receiving end of like direction and distance of where we're taking contact and stuff like that. And almost every time it was wrong. It was like almost bad every time. And so I would try to bring all my stuff to make sure I wasn't that dude, and I'm like feeding good information up, because obviously it helps me. It's all to help the guy on the ground that's being shot at. So I tried to, but a couple times I would shoot out a range out, and it acted like it had a gate on, where it would only show me like 25 meters or whatever.
Oh wow!
But that wasn't it. I don't know what it was, but that was just a lesson learned that I tried to tell multiple. I told that story a lot to people. Be like, hey man, don't get so sucked into your electronics and your like Gucci gear that you forget the basics, because I had to start doing range estimations and shit like that. And I actually talked about on one of the podcast episodes, the one that says Cosmo 1, PFC Lamel, who was one of my scouts, or Lance Corporal Lamel, who was one of my scouts, who got into a firefight and had to use like his compass and range estimation, and was like spot on. And I knew it was him because that was the only time I ever got an accurate one, and we got some guys because of it. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you carry like a islet or anything like that?
Nope. We weren't doing a lot of stuff that was laser guided, so it was for really even didn't really even need it for talk-ons. What am I thinking?
Did you guys do any night missions?
Yeah, on mounted patrols. Every mounted patrol I made them take. We always took night vision and extra batteries and extra chow and water, and it came in handy. There was once where it was necessary because they got stuck out. I wasn't on that one. They got stuck out overnight because they hit a couple IEDs. But with that tablet, with the situational awareness, and just because we were not like moving through an area, we were in the same patrol base, patrolling the same exact spots every time. I had like every building memorized. I knew the distances between things. I knew exactly where things were. And then also we were building like PowerPoint slides. Anytime we had an incident, we made a PowerPoint slide on it, and that became part of our air brief. So all the pilots were seeing that ahead of time, and occasionally talking to them on the phone before they, the night before they came out. So it was like situational awareness was really good. And there wasn't like we were never like in a situation that I felt like an aircraft could have confused my position with somebody else's position.
Yeah.
It was it was, everything was, it was like, I say it was like almost running ops from an OP,
That's crazy. Yeah, you go to Lejeune, where like Three Sisters is and stuff like that. I had
Yeah.
scouts that knew the grid without even like looking because they'd written it down so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You pull out the last, drawing you did last time you were up there, and everything's the same,
That's the pro tip for the new 0861s. Quit throwing away your terrain sketches. You keep that thing
Yeah.
for the next time. Quit throwing it away, idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. Did your Georgians have night vision?
Yes. Yeah, they had one platoon that was like their high-speed platoon, and they would do the night patrols, and they would take NVGs.
How was the high-speed platoon of Georgians?
They were bad. We only did one or two of those with those guys. They didn't do it very often. They would patrol like once every 2 weeks.
Really?
And
so that was the job.
But one
time,
they went out, and my guys had covered 2 patrols that day, and the CO was like, "No, you don't need to come out on the night one. We're just a little short one." They were just going like right outside the patrol base. Weren't going far. Maybe like 500 yards maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And because they wanted to check something out, but they started taking fire, and I had a C-130 on station, and so I'm being talked on. So I don't have any Marines on the patrol. I'm being talked on through a translator by the lieutenant who's on the patrol. And he's saying, and I could see them shooting on our camera. I can see where they're shooting. And they're like, "Hey, yeah, there's a dude in that tree line shooting at us." And I could hear the fire. So I know they're actually getting shot at. But I could not gain PID. And I talked the C-130 onto it, and they're looking, and they can't see the guy. I'm like, "Do you see something? Like, am I missing something? Like, I can't see anyone down there." And I'm still being told by the patrol, "Yeah, we're being shot from there." So I'm like, "Okay, well, somebody's got a really good position. Like, I cannot gain PID, and I can't drop on a tree line without PID."
Yeah.
Per those ROEs that we had. So I asked the C-130, like, "Can you do a show of force and drop flares?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Oh, wow, really?
So I did a C-130 show of force, and he did that angel wing flare thing, like you see at air shows,
That's awesome.
right over that tree line, and that fixed it, man. Those dudes ran. All that fire stopped.
Jeez, dude, that's pretty awesome that they did that. Was that a AC-130 or is that a what was the one called? The Harvest Hawk?
I don't remember. I don't remember which one that was.
Yeah,
but cool. They had the 40 mic and the 105 on it.
That's the AC-130. The Harvest Hawk it may have come out after you got out. That's a Marine aircraft. We took a C-130 and put basically Javelin missiles in it and then Hellfire missiles on it. And it would come on station for like 4 hours, like 3 or 4 hours for you during the daytime too. So which was cool.
Maybe it was that Harvest Hawk. I don't know, man. I haven't thought about that one in a while. My dad had dumped a lot of that stuff. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah,
9 years ago.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But it was really cool. That lieutenant was pretty stoked. That Georgian lieutenant was pretty stoked. He came and gave me he came running back in the COC when they got back and gave me like a big Georgian flag that he carried in his pack all the time with him.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's like, "Yeah, you saved our lives." And he gives me that flag. I still got that thing in my box somewhere.
That's pretty wicked, dude. That's pretty wicked.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Up on the wall. So, speaking of like, I was getting ready to ask something and then I forgot it. Oh, speaking of like, forgetting about stuff and things like that. People a lot of times talk about how they want to go on deployment. They want to they miss Afghanistan. They want to do these things. And I was like that, after you've been away from it for a little bit, you're like, "Man, I want to go back on a deployment," and then you go and then you're like, "Man, this sucks." Like the living sucks. And it differs. We talked a little bit before at the beginning how it differs from place to place. You want to describe how your living conditions were at your patrol base?
Absolutely. Yeah, we were pretty Spartan. And we knew they were going to be pretty Spartan going out. And when I got our team all together before we we drove up on that first convoy from Leatherneck to the patrol bases. I got all the Marines together, and I told them, you guys, I took some advice that my brother gave me before I went into boot camp. It's like, it's going to suck, but enjoy it while you're there. You're never going to do this twice. Mm-hmm. You're not going to do this again. So take a 5-second pause and realize where you are and try to enjoy it. And I did that to my guys. I said, hey, we're going to an area that's pretty rough. We know there's a lot of IEDs. We know there's mortars. We know we're going to get in fights. And we know the conditions are pretty Spartan. So when you're bitching about it, just remember, these are the stories you're going to tell your grandkids in 40 years. Is this right here? We're starting your story. Like, this is it. Mm-hmm. So remember it. Like, it's not all bad. Enjoy it while you're here. Enjoy the rough, while you're there. And when we got there, I mean, it was pretty rough. So I think we mentioned, different types of, operations that you can do. I mean, you can operate out of Leatherneck, and you can do things where you do raids and you're out for a night, or you're out for a couple of days, or you do a movement through an area and you're out for maybe a week and then you're back. And when you're at Leatherneck, it's pretty nice, in different patrol bases, they have varying degrees of amenities. So some places have shower trailers, some places have buildings with showers, some places have, full laundry services,
drop off
and stuff like that. What's that?
Drop off laundry. You go drop it off and then come back the next day and it's done for you.
Yeah. Pretty nice. So the facilities at Faisal and Redvi were very Spartan. Shergazi was slightly better, but not by much. And these conditions improved by the time we left. The last month they got better. And again, I'm not going to complain about these. I'm going to describe what they were, but I actually really liked that they were like that. I thought that that's how Marines are supposed to live. We're not supposed to have nice, comfortable facilities in a combat zone. It should be rough. Yeah. Like, we shouldn't get too comfortable there. We should want to do our job and leave at some point. Like basic things like showering. There was no shower facility at PB or Redvi. We had a little thing inside the EOD and Anglico compound that was made, and it was basically like a little HESCO turned into a fence, or like a door in a corner. And it had somebody took a water bladder out of Camelback and hung it up so it would get like hot in the sun, and then you could sort of dribble some water on you with like a Camelback like hose, Yeah. But I did that maybe 2 times. It was so cold while we were there. It was freezing. And that was barely worth it. That water got up to like 45 degrees, in the heat of the day. So didn't shower much. It was just baby wipe showers. It was like field op baby wipe showers. And laundry, there's no laundry facility. Actually, you put on the cover of the last podcast we did, that's me doing laundry.
That corrugated steel.
Yeah. So I found a couple of like, they're basically like oil cans for catching oil off of MRAPs when you're changing the oil. I had 2 of those that were clean, and then found that piece of corrugated steel and just dumped. We had a big box of that powdered laundry detergent, and took it out. And it was from my days living in Mexico when we used to do all our laundry by hand. And I got my guys together. I'm like, this is how you do your laundry. You fill one up with soap and you run it up. You run your clothes up and down this corrugated metal, and then you dip it in the rinse thing, and then you set it over there to dry. And it helped a little bit. I mean, it made you smell like laundry detergent, but it was so dirty. It was still like your clothes were all starched, like super heavy starch. So your socks would just stand up on their own,
Yeah, just crust.
Because they were just so dirty. What's that?
Just that crust.
Yeah. It was pretty gnarly, but that's how, we try to do laundry every once in a while. Somebody started stinking too bad. It was like, you need to go do the hand wash. So that was laundry and showering. Shaving was a hole that we dug in the side of right next to the side of our HESCO and put some rocks in. So there was some drainage, and then we had like a little framed 2x4 box with the side mirror of a blown up MRAP. So we took one of the side mirrors off, hung it up on the thing, and you've got it. So you got a mirror,
Nice.
and then the way you'd shave is heat up water and we had a coffee maker, like a Black & Decker Walmart coffee maker, and heat up water in that, pour it in your canteen cup, go outside, so you have some hot water, and then shave with that, rinse off with some bottled water, and then clean out your canteen cup really well, and then put your coffee in there, and then drink your coffee. And that was how you shaved every day. There was no place to get haircuts, so somebody had clippers and cut hair for a little while. I finally just started shaving my head. I was
really?
just tired of it. Yeah, I just shaved my head all the time. I was tired of the haircuts. It was super cold and drying out, so I was like, just for hygiene purposes, I'm just gonna shave.
God, dude.
Shave my head. But going to the bathroom, there's no toilet facilities. There's no toilets. So you got piss tubes, which are of course the PVC pipes like buried, into the ground a foot. But the Georgians didn't know how to do that very well. They, instead of building drainage, they just like stuck them randomly in the dirt. So it always stunk really bad. And then, if you needed a poo, you had to go it was wag bags the whole time. So I had my wife send me. You can go on Walmart or any camping store, and you can find like a poop tent, and it's basically like a tent that's big enough for one person to squeeze into, like horizontal, or stand in vertically. And then we had an old milk crate that we flipped upside down, cut the bottom out of it, and then put a toilet seat on it. So, and then you just put your wag bag, you wrap it over the toilet seat, sit on that, do your business, and then wrap that thing up and walk halfway across the patrol base with your poop in your hand and throw it in the burn pit. So that was always funny walking down, because you had to walk right next to the COC to get to the burn pit. So people are coming in and out of the COC, and you just walk by and you got your poop in your hand.
Hey, what's up, sir?
And like, hey, what's up, sir?
Did you guys play the game to see how far away from the burn pit you could be and still make it in? See how far you can fling that bag of poo?
Yeah, I try to stay as far. Yeah, I try to stay away as far as the burn pit at all times.
Nasty.
It's pretty nasty. And then the food situation was maybe the worst. There was no chow hall. There was no really American support for chow there. I think what happened, we ate the same chow basically for 3 months. What are those rations called? They're like an MRE, but they're the big trays.
The tray rats, yeah.
Yeah, tray rats. So all we had was tray rats. But we got our food from the Georgians, so whatever they ordered, we got a piece of it. And I think whoever their supply guy was who ordered it didn't realize that there's 5 different menus. He just ordered the same menu. So when you get a tray rat, it's like 3 different things, right? It's like a main menu, and then like a side dish, and then like a vegetable thing. Mm-hmm. And so you get these 3 trays, and then you heat them up with the bag that comes with them. You pour a little water in there, and then that's that chemical heater, And but it was spaghetti. So the main meal was spaghetti, and that's all we had for like 3 months. And I think it was like cornbread on the side or something. And the Georgians, we got so tired of spaghetti, I stopped eating for a while. But the Georgians, they got tired of it too. So they would take them all. They would take like 20 of them. And what they did is they built this like little wood, almost like a smokehouse. And they had a huge, big, giant pot in there, like a big metal pot. And they would just pour like 10 of those tray rats in there into the pot, put a bunch of water in it, and then pour like 10 Tabasco sauces in it. So it was like spicy spaghetti soup. And they're like, hey, breakfast is ready. So
that's all you had to eat every meal?
Yeah, that was 2 meals a day with that stuff.
Ugh.
So, I lived off like care packages for a while. People would send beef jerky, and basically I lived off Copenhagen and coffee for like 4 months.
That's what's up.
Yeah. And yeah, that food was pretty horrendous. And then
3 months.
One time spaghetti. The Georgians, what's that?
I said 3 months of spaghetti. That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Watt was telling me about that too. I didn't know it was every patrol base. I thought it was just his.
Oh, he had that problem too? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And it was pretty disgusting. And then the Georgians, one day they like traded some MREs or something for a goat. So they cooked up this goat and they got rice somehow. I don't know how they got a bunch of rice, but it was basically just goat and rice. And I was like, oh, sweet, something different. And they're like, yeah, come on over. They were all excited about it. Like, come eat. I got that and took one bite. And I threw it out. It's probably the worst food I've ever tasted in my life. I almost threw up. I don't know what they did to that goat.
That's bad that you would
but
prefer
it was disgusting.
You won't even eat it after eating spaghetti over and over again.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was awful. It was really horrible.
We had a situation in Marja in 2011 where we had, what are those meals called? First strikes, where it's the entire day's meal in one bag, but it's basically all bread. It's this big ass clear bag, and there's two types. One has all the bread bullshit, and then like a packet of tuna, and then the other one has a packet of chicken, and that's all we had for a month. And I got the same way where I'm like, fuck this, I'm not eating. Put in a grizzly wintergreen. I'm not eating. This is bullshit. Especially the worst was when care packages would come in and you wouldn't get one. You're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh no, what am I gonna do? That's the worst.
They did do the. Eventually, there was a PX truck. So I don't know if you've seen that. It's like a 40-foot shipping container that's on the back of a truck, and they just bring that in, open it up, and there's like a PX inside, and they got snacks and friggin'. For some reason, there was an Xbox in there, but that came like at month like 4.5. That was the first time we saw that. It was like Marines pull in with the PX, and they're like, didn't even know the base existed. They're like, what are you guys doing out here? It was like it's like visiting people on Mars, and but. I just walked in there again. I just bought coffee in Copenhagen from them. So
if they had it right, our patrol base or in Sangin was not patrol base. Our FOB in Sangin was like the last stop on their rounds. So when they got to us, there was like nothing in there. And I remember one time they came and they had a single flat of monsters, which is 24 or something like that. And one of the guys on my advisor team was the first one in line and went in and bought that entire case and walked out with it. And the entire line was ready to murder this dude. They were like, fuck you, it was. And then he's like, oh, I'll sell you one, for $5 or whatever, but
that's messed up.
But it was like, to even use the PX truck, you had to have cash, which nobody had. So people were riding home and having their family send them cash in the mail so they could so they could buy something from the PX truck when it came. Again, like I think we only got it 3 times. One time it was supposed to come and they let us know, they're like, hey, it'll be here tomorrow or maybe 2 days, whatever. And then we found out that it had gone off the road and rolled into a canal. So they were taking it back. And we're like,
no way.
Just bring all this shit here. Empty it out here. Like, we will take water-soaked stuff. We don't even care.
You're like, no, launch the QRF. Let's go get it.
Yeah, no shit. Let's raid the truck, man. Food's tough, man. When we ate with our Afghans, that was the best food we had in 13. I starved. I starved out there too. We beef jerky, like you said, beef jerky was primary. Like, we had a couple officers with some good connections, and they had organizations sending us care packages, which really helped. But it was tough.
Yeah, the one time I ate, we had a couple Afghan interpreters living with us on the base, and they invited me over one night to eat, and that was by far the best food. It was flatbread, some rice and fish that they did the underground cooking, they cover it in sand, under coals and stuff. Man, that was
real slow.
That was really good food. Yeah, that was yummy.
Yeah, man, it's that's one of those things. Like, they would make French fries for us, and we were like, this is bomb. Like, at these crazy way out there locations, would make some of the best French fries I've ever had, and they would be so proud.
Wow.
And they would bring out bottles of they would make the rice and meat also, and they would bring out the French fries, and then they would bring out bottles of Texas Pete hot sauce. Like, ooh, we got real important guests here. So they're bringing out, they thought they were really showing, themselves, because some of the bases we went to, they really appreciated the American advisors. One of the one of the company commanders, lost his eye and something else. His advisor team, he was on a patrol with an advisor team, a Marine advisor team. They hit an IED and I think got an ambush. The captain lost his leg. The Marine captain lost his leg, and this Afghan commander lost his eye and stuff. And I think the captain tourniqueted himself. And when the corpsman came to him, he's like, I'm fine. Take care of that dude. And that Afghan commander like remembered that and like really respected the Marine advisors. So that was cool. But yeah, man. That living out there is tough. How is your sleeping situation? Where were you guys
just,
in?
we're on cots inside a GP. And it got bad for a while because, like I said, it was really cold there. I mean, it was easily down in the 30s at night. And at some point in the winter, I mean, for some reason, our heater for our tent was hooked up to the same generator as the COC.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as it started getting cold, I mean, we got there in October. As soon as it started getting a little bit colder in November, that generator kept turning off. There was too much power draw on it, and there wasn't like another way. There wasn't another generator nearby. I don't remember I finally just made the call and I disconnected our heater, and I said, "Well, suck it up. Like, we got warm sleeping bags."
Fuck, dude.
And so we slept on. I mean, it was 30 degrees inside the tent. You get it to 70 inside 80 degrees inside your sleeping bag. It was nice and warm. But man, that first step out in the morning was, especially doing LZs at night. I turned our LZ into a nighttime only LZ because they would get shot at if they came in the day. So we had an LZ right on the other side of the wall from our tent, and a few times they came in during the day. They'd take small arms fire. So I finally just called it and said, just come at night, and I'd get up at night and do the LZ brief and bring them in for mail or resupply or whatever, or they bring in packs or something. But yeah, it was cold. It was a little bit rough, but like I said, I liked all that rough living. I thought this is how Marines are supposed to live. Like, this is what makes it. I don't want to be super comfortable. You sort of just live at this like elevated level of uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sleeping a whole lot because it's nighttime LZs all the time. Plus I was just like I go to bed after the patrols were all over, and I'd maybe sleep a couple hours, like from midnight to like 2 or 3 in the morning, doing a nighttime LZ, bringing a helicopter, and then get those guys situated, sit and watch the COC for an hour or two, go back to bed for a couple hours, get back up at like 7, and get ready for patrols that day. And I wasn't sleeping a lot, and I wasn't really PTing. I wasn't taking care of myself. And I think like 2 months in, Captain Bates, I don't know if he saw something or heard something from me talking to him, but he's like, "Hey man, you need to set aside some time for yourself every day. Like, grab the little walkie-talkie, put on some PT gear, and go running at the LZ. Like, you just need to put one of your guys in this," because I was just in the COC all the time. I did not want to leave. Like, I didn't want to lose that situational awareness.
Yeah.
Because stuff just happened like all the time. We just randomly get mortared, or an IED would go off, and I wanted to be there so I could react fast.
Mm-hmm.
And but Captain Bates was like, "Look, you're not paying attention to yourself. You need to take a break and go PT." And that was really good advice. Like, so I started doing that. I just put somebody else in the COC, and I was like, I'm taking an hour and going to, go run and work out. And that helped me a lot. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, man. When I was there in 2011 with 3-6, my fire support officer got pulled to go do IO training, or IO operations, information operations. And so I was it. I was the senior fires guy, and he was that was his full-time job now, and I was the guy doing all the piss off, the targeting and stuff like that. I would think I was the only one certified, maybe not, but I was the one doing it all. And
yeah,
same deal, man. Even sometimes when I would try to leave to like, hey, I'm gonna go to sleep, you're in bed, you just get laid down, and then Kramer, we need you to COC. There's an IED just went off. Kramer, just in the COC, there's someone taking pot shots, or something like that. And of course you're going to get up and go. You're not going to wait. Like, someone's getting shot at. I'm not going to like take my time. Yeah. So, dude, sleep. I was fucked up for a while coming back. It really fucked my sleep set kind of, because I was getting maybe 4 hours, maybe sometimes. We moved the 3-6 moved the battalion headquarters from FOB Marja to Camp Hansen, which is like another FOB on the northern part of Marja. And I remember when that happened, it was like 36 hours that I was awake, moving everything, like shutting down fires. We had to put a forward out, and then like transfer I got delusional. By the end of that, I was literally like, and then when I went to go lay down, I couldn't fall asleep. It took me like an hour to fall asleep because I was just kind of winding down from all that shit. I started, which is probably horrible, but I started smoking a cigar every day. I got online and ordered like a couple things of cigars. I ordered a humidor, and I had a humidor in the COC. And at night, I would, after like kind of everything, it's like 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, I would go out back and fire up a cigar and read a book, try to read a little bit just to, get out of that.
Something.
Yeah, dude. And you're right. It's that's you got to do that stuff for your own sanity. You can't get so wrapped up in it all the time, but it's crazy stuff, man. Well, hey, I know you got family in town, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. I appreciate you coming on again and telling us about, your time with the Georgian missions. Like I said at the beginning, I think that's really an uncovered thing. I think the Georgian liaison teams and the missions that the Georgians have lost a lot of dudes, in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people realize like what those dudes are doing over there. So I appreciate you coming on and giving your perspective. I still do want to get you and Demaro on here together. I am going to contact him and see if we can set that up for some time so you guys kind of bounce some of your stories off each other. I think that'll be great. So is there anything like charity or organizations or anything you want to plug? We didn't even get into your transition either. We'll have to talk about that on the next one also.
Okay. Yeah. No, man. I'm just a dude working and going to school and, taking care of the family. So
that's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, hey, everybody, as always, you can hit me up on my Instagram at Former Action Guys, at JKramerGraphics, both of those. Support the website at jkramergraphics.com. Make sure to subscribe on all the platforms and leave me a 5-star review. It'll be awesome. So, yeah, and that's it.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, dude. Have a good one, bro.
Yeah, man.